So it seems like everybody here are people who have already been using SafeSquid for some time. So makes my job a little much more easier. Okay, so as you were seeing on the slideshow that's currently running there, what we have done with SafeSquid SWG is brought in a few new things. And these 4 or 5 points that you see here are basically those that most of you had been demanding for some time now. And just to very quickly brief you on it. The 4 or 5 things that we have done, one was HTTPS scanning that has been brought in, which probably is not of much interest to most of you who are ISPs. Definitely it's not something of much use for the ISPs the way it is going to be for the moment. However, the 3 other things that are there on the screen there about in-memory virus scanning and URL classification engine, they are of much importance to almost everybody, because in-memory virus scanning will be bringing you very high speed and very high quality of efficiency when it comes to content scanning and ensuring that the content doesn't contain any malware. Already SafeSquid had some features for that, but they required you to basically use another antivirus software and then SafeSquid could get connected to it. This definitely was a good way. It still is there, but it does have some latency. So we thought that we will put in some kind of an in-memory virus scanning, which will ensure a very good user experience. The other thing that everybody was very much looking forward to is a better URL classification engine. We had URL classification engine earlier too as C profiles, but it seems it's not been really delivering very well because of various reasons. So what we have done is we have kept C profiles, that was their legacy, and we have now added in a new section called SS Core, which gives you a much better and much more powerful URL classification. The C profiles was just domain based, so it was generic rather towards the domain. So for example, about.com, all the pages that you would visit in about.com would get classified similarly. The new one actually works on the URLs. So various URLs on about.com would get classified differently. The next thing that everybody had been looking forward to was about some improvements on the UI. So what we have done is we have brought in a few changes to the UI, very minimal at the moment. Actually, there's a lot of work still going on the SafeSquid web UI. So that's the next important thing. And the profiling engine. The profiling engine has been much more fine-tuned. It gives you much better output as far as being able to use your logic is concerned. Okay, so without spending too much time on the preamble, let's quickly go over to what we have on the interface here. Okay, so as you can see here, the old SafeSquid interface pretty much is the same. There is very little difference on the shell as you see on the screen right now. It's pretty much looking like what you have known Cisco to look like for so many years now. The first important difference that you will notice is when you come to the profiling section. The earlier profiling section had a lot of areas that you could be using to create your profiles. And I know SafeSquid is basically a profile-based internet distribution system. What we have done now is we have sort of decluttered it. What you have now is simple looking profiles, but you have a very powerful set of options now. You have got something like request profiles, response profiles, web profiles, time profiles, and a few other parameters which were already there. Now, how it works is all of these elements can be combined together by the profiling engine while you actually create separate parameters for them. For example, I'll just take you how we would typically start to do profiling with the new profiling engine. As you can see here in the profiles, you have got request profiles, response profiles, web profiles, time profiles. Now, what I do to create a policy is, suppose I wanted to do something about Google Safe Search. Now, Google Safe Search is basically about redirecting all URL queries to a particular URL so that it becomes Safe Search. Now, as you see here, I have got lots of policies here in the request profile, and here's one rule here which shows about Google. Now, in the request profiling section, I can actually profile a request based on the various parameters that a request generally is associated with. It could be about some method like get, post, connect, or whatever, and protocols like FTP, HTTP, or HTTPS. And there is this particular URL and going to a website. So it could be anything with Google, like google.com, google.co, google.uk. So I have just left it as Google here, but I know the URL for all searches is going to be as you see here. And what I do is I just mark them as Google search, and I pre-mark them as Google Unsafe Search. Incidentally, what you see here is a better looking comments text box, which gives me more space to document the policies. So here I've created a request profile which says how a Google search is getting classified, and I further just next down to that particular entry in the request profiling area, I have created one more rule which says how I am going to differentiate a Google Safe Search from a regular Google search. Okay, it seems to be hanging on me here. Very nice. The very next entry to the entry that I was just discussing with you is the entry for demarcating Google Safe Search. This particular entry here, it differentiates a regular Google search from a Google Safe Search. You see, here I'm looking for the URL of ampersand safe equal to active, and then I'm marking it as Google unsafe search. Now the result is I can use this request profile. I mean, I can individually profile various kinds of requests, and then I can combine them into the profiling area that we had just visited. I'll just go back there quickly. And in that profiling section, I have demarcated Google Safe Search, Google Unsafe Search, and I have created a policy there which profiles the unsafe search appropriately. You can see here. Here I have used the Google Unsafe Search as the request profile and done an added profile saying that I want to profile this as enforce Google Safe Search. And then I have created a policy in URL redirecting section so that any request which does not happen to be a Google Safe Search will automatically get redirected in a manner that it becomes a Google Safe Search. So what I'm talking about here basically is creating a much better Web 2.0 control. Can you see here? I've got this rule here in the URL redirecting section, which looks at the profiles being enforced Google Safe Search, and it does an appropriate redirection. Okay. Similarly, the whole profiling section has been split up from what you saw earlier in the earlier versions of CSQuid, and now you have got different sections like request profile, response profile. Similarly, in the response profiles, you get all the parameters that a typical response from any web server would have. You know, everything that web content would be able to offer in its response headers. You can use them to individually create your response profiles. So you can very uniquely and very finely control the application of profiles based on requests, as in the earlier section, and based on the responses here in the response section. So we still have the earlier system of tooltips. So each of the text boxes, what it is going to do, how it is going to work, you will be able to see it on the tooltips and accordingly use it. So you can actually now create responses to be individually profiled based on the size of the content that is being received, the nature of the content, that is the MIME type. Like you can individually profile images, text, whatever you wanted, even based on the file extensions and the mode with which the content comes in, like transfer encoding. So you would be able to use this request profiling, response profiling, time profiling, and combine them all into a profiling section and create profiles as you would want for the filtering to happen. Now, this particular profiling section, in application, it's pretty much like it was in the legacy products. But in the new product, the difference is just that each of these aspects, like time, request, responses, they are individually and separately used for creating policies. Now let me take you to the new content classification engine that we have brought in, that I was talking to you when we started off. The new content classification engine allows you to create policies and very easily categorize websites. Now there is about 18 million websites which have been included in the classification engine, and you can pick or rather select one or more categories to get applied to a particular website, and based on what category it is getting applied to, you can create a web profile. So the concept now also has something like web profiles, which you can again use in your profile. So what I can do is, if I wanted to just say that all websites which belong to a particular category, I want to block them, or I want to block everything besides everything that falls into a particular category, I can create policies like that. So in web profiling, I've got an option to classify websites in various categories. The categories that we have right now, about 31 categories here. You have got categories like web proxies, social networking, online dating, search engines, entertainment, government websites, hobbies, hosting, and each of these, again, the tooltip helps you identify what each of these categories is denoting, and you can accordingly associate a profile to it. Now here in my sample rule, I have just created one policy which says if a website belongs to a web proxy category, I want to profile that as web profile web proxy. And then in my profile section, I will just use the web profile as an option and create some policy for it. So, so for example, you can see here in this particular rule, I have got, in this particular rule here, I have got a policy which says if a website belongs to a web proxy category, I'm just adding another web profile to it as web proxy. And similarly, in my second rule here, I have got a policy which says if it, if a website falls into any of the categories, I'm saying it is SS4 categorized. And then, since I have done a classification here for web profiles, I can very quickly go over to web profiles, the profile section, and in the profile section, I can create an appropriate policy for it. This is how I would do. I have not created one here right now. Okay, so let's create a policy immediately, and as you can see, now SafeSquid UI gives me a drop-down list of relevant things. For example, web profiles section, I had created a web profile called web proxy, and similarly I had created a web profile called SS4 classified. So I can use one or more of them like this as an option. So if the web profile happens to be web proxy, then I'm going to say that basically I want to block it. So I'll just say block, and that's it. Now, of course, you all have been using SafeSquid already, so you know very well just putting a profile like block isn't going to work. What I'll be having to do additionally is I have to apply the profile of block to my URL filter or my MIME content filter. Here I can just come and create a policy saying that I want to block and of course. So this is pretty much as we had in CS Code already, but the thing is it's become a little more easier to use with the auto suggestion happening on the UI. It makes things easier to work. You will have noticed, I believe already, that in the profile section the auto suggestion comes in only for what I have done for profiling and not what I have done for web profiling. For example, that particular web proxy, so I will not get a drop down for web proxy because it was something in web profile. So only if I am typing into the web profile text box will automatically I get those auto suggestions for web profiles. So if I just leave it now as it is, then all requests that are going to be traveling for web proxies, they will immediately start getting blocked. This also brings me to another small area of configuration which I was talking about as in-memory virus scanning. There isn't much actually to show as far as in-memory virus scanning is concerned. It's just there, and it gives you a few options. Of course, the old friend profiles is still there, so you can decide if you do not want virus scanning to be done for specific websites and by profiling them, and you can set your security level that you want for a particular profile, or you can have a generic generic rule for all the profiles, like I have one here. Here I have set the security level to high. I have got 4 options. I can simply bypass virus scanning for specific profiles. I can have a standard defense, like not on mere suspension, and I can block even if it is just suspect if I set it to high. And paranoid is something like if something goes wrong, I mean if the virus scanner is not able to perform at all because of any kind of a systemic failure. If you're paranoid, you want the content to be blocked, and that's what will happen. But we have named it paranoid because you really have to be paranoid if you're going to be selecting the option. You've got options to decide what kind of content you want to block. Usually you would want to block all kinds of content, so that's what I have done, and all of them are selected. But you do have an option, you could individually unselect one of them for a specific profile because you knew a specific kind of content which was coming in was actually not a virus, but because the virus scanner was for some reason detecting it as virus, it was getting blocked, and you still wanted it to be allowed, you could do something like that. Now let's go to the heart of today's presentation, which was a deep dive into the HTTPS scanning. Just a moment. Before I go in there, I'll just take a small detour. There is something we have done in the statistics area for analysis. We have now in the statistics area, we also have web profiling brought in. So if there is a particular content that had been profiled in a particular classification, you will be able to see it. For example, it's empty right now, so let's access some website and check it out. Let's go to about. And you will see some changes coming in here. Okay. Very nice. It's not showing up here. I guess there is something faulty here. Otherwise, I should have been seeing the web profiles that got applied for about.com, etc. to be coming in here. It's not. I don't know why. Let me check out another website. Well, it's still not picking up. I don't know why. I'll have to check it out. But for some reason, it's not picking it up here. Anyway, let me just go over to the HTTPS scanning. What we have done for HTTPS scanning here is given you options so that you can actually look at SafeSquid's policy making in a manner that you can actually decide what to scan inside the HTTPS, what not to scan inside the HTTPS. For example, here now I have created a policy saying if it says no deep scan, if the profile, if a particular request or a content is profiled as no deep scan, then I have disabled deep scanning. So I can actually decide what I want to inspect inside HTTPS and what I don't want to inspect, what kinds of websites, what kinds of applications I do not want to look inside. I can control them, and I can even look at the validity of the SSL certificates. For example, there could be a various kind of there could be some kind of an error in the SSL certificate. I want to relax, I want to permit, I can do that. And I can choose what kind of strictness I want to follow as far as SSL certification of a remote website is concerned to be tested for. The default, of course, is something the safest. That is the first option. It's the safest. It's the default option. And I can further look inside the SSL certificate for domain name mismatches. So I can create the policies again here based on the profiles that we could have created out of request responses, to which website somebody was making a connection. So I want to look inside it, even if it is HTTPS, then I would do something like that. And that allows us to create policies in our HTTPS scanning. Once a connection, which is an HTTPS connection, is being scanned, then very naturally even the virus scanners will start to pick up content if they contain any malware or a virus or something like that. But more importantly, you would be using something like that for your Web 2.0 controls. Let me take you to an example, the most popular example, Google Safe Search. Now, once upon a time, Google Search was basically just HTTP. Recently, last year or a year before that, I believe, Google Search turned entirely HTTPS. So all my searches are now HTTPS. So without HTTPS scanning, you cannot ensure the Google Safe Search features of SafeSquid. Now, for example, if I start to make a search here, say I look for Apple, you will notice it's automatically telling me that my Safe Search has been enabled. Now, no matter what I try, I will not be able to turn off my Google Safe Search. You see, it's just come back on. I just cannot change it. Yes, I use the word sex here, but all this is basically non-pornographic content. And one of the problems with the earlier approach was, if somebody signed in, then Google Safe Search would get broken. Now let me see if I can break it here. Okay, so I have now signed in, and let's try it again. Okay, let's see if I can disable it after signing in. No, I cannot. So that's how you would be using your HTTPS scanning. What we have done here for HTTPS scanning actually is we have actually created an engine which generates SSL certificates for all the websites that you are going to visit in real time. Now, to generate these SSL certificates, you need to first generate your own root SSL certificate. Uh, to generate your root SSL certificates, what you need to supply to SafeSquid is a passphrase, because SafeSquid is going to generate a root CA certificate for itself, and using this root CA certificate, it will be generating all new SSL certificates which will be issued for all websites that you are going to receive. Now, the password protected SSL certificate uses an encrypted password. For example, if you wanted to create a new SSL certificate, root CA SSL certificate, you will have to supply an encrypted password, and to generate that encrypted password, encrypted password, I suppose I wanted to create a password for a new server, for a new SSL certificate. It would be like whatever. And I would be required to use this encrypted password to generate my SSL certificate. So I would be putting that encrypted string here rather than the actual passphrase. Now, the reason for this is the SSL certificates are getting generated on your disk on which the SafeSquid service is running, and you do not want that root SSL certificate to be stolen. Now, the root SSL certificate with this technique becomes password protected, and even if somebody steals those certificates, he cannot use them. Besides, you can also create the same, you can share the SSL certificates across your cluster, but you will have to ensure that the passphrase for the SSL certificates remains the same. Of course, you will have to encrypt them differently using the different activation key on each of the instances. Having done that, the users will basically be required to download the root SSL certificate, the public key of it, and they will have to install it in all the browsers that they are going to use. Unless they do that, they will keep facing problems. So you'll have to get that part done. I'll show you how you would be downloading the root SSL certificate, the public key of it. It's very simple. It's built in. This is the URL where the public key of the root CA certificate will be available, http://safesquid.cfg safesquid.cer, and it's asking me to download. I'm just opening it up for you. So this is the root SSL certificate that's generated for me, and SafeSquid will generate a unique root CA certificate for all instances of SafeSquid. Every time you set up a new SafeSquid, and you generate a new certificate, it will be a new thing and completely unique from anybody else's. But you can, of course, if you know the passphrase, you can copy the same set of certificates across your cluster, and you can load them if you also know the passphrase. That's a passphrase. Okay, gentlemen, we have almost run the whole time of the scheduled presentation, 40 minutes. I'm open to questions now. So if you would like to ask any questions, please go ahead. Okay, looks like I ran a very, very boring webinar today. Everybody seems to have gone to sleep. Any questions, gentlemen, or are we done for the day? Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, you can definitely write back to Sudipta or myself, and we'll be more than happy to help you understand and get this in production at your place. The product will be available for downloads starting next week. And of course, the SafeSquid tech support team will be always more than willing to help you do a deployment or a test at your enterprise. Have a good day. Bye.